And joining us now is Jonathan Deklechen. He is the father of Sagi Deklechen, who is still being held hostage by Hamas. So thank you so much, Jonathan. And first off, I have to, of course, ask you how you and your family are holding up.
Well, thank you for asking. We're doing the best we can, but every day is kind of a new hell that we have to endure, and not knowing what Sagi's condition is. Of course, as your viewers may know, Hamas has never allowed Red Cross or any other international agency to visit with the hostages. Quite honestly, amongst the 100 Israelis still being held, we have no idea who might still be alive.
I'm very, very sorry. My heart goes out to your family. Such a tough thing to have to continue to deal with. I want to also ask you that about Prime Minister Netanyahu. He says that there's been some headway toward a potential ceasefire. We know that they've been close before, but didn't get a deal. We don't know what the timeline could be then. What do you make of this talk of progress and the lack of progress?
Well, you're right. We've all had to go up and down, sort of on this roller coaster for more than a year now. I think the major change this time around, or the major difference, is a kind of line in the sand that President-elect Trump has laid down 3 weeks ago Monday in a statement, which has been reinforced since then by himself and some of the incoming administration officials, that his expectation of all sides, first and foremost, of course, Hamas, but also the intermediaries, Qatar, Egypt, and Israel, that by the time of his first inauguration, we all will have reached an agreement to get the hostages home and stop the madness in Gaza. It remains to be seen what exactly will happen, but having put a date on it and also made it clear to all sides, again, mostly Hamas, but to all sides, that there will be a price to be paid if it is not done. Clearly, that's created a new situation in which there's added motivation and added urgency from all sides to get this done. But Hamas has to get to yes, which has not happened, and the Israeli government is going to have to see this through, despite its own internal desires, perhaps, to continue the conflict. But the world has spoken, the president-elect has spoken, and his people are working very intimately with Biden administration officials, sort of in lockstep, which is extremely unusual, to get all the hostages home, the 7 Americans amongst them, of course, and to end the killing.
Yeah. It's definitely been a roller coaster. I also want to ask you, this morning we learned about the passing of Hannah Ketzer, a former hostage who spent 7 weeks in captivity by Hamas. What was your reaction when you learned of that sad news?
Well, understand, Hannah Ketzer, I've known her for 40 years. She was one of the veteran members of my kibbutz, Kibbutz Nir Oz, a small cooperative farming community on the border where everyone knows everyone. She had worked in the communal laundry for most of her adult life. Her husband taught me a lot of what I knew about agricultural mechanics, believe it or not. He was murdered on October 7th, and their son, Elad, was murdered by the Islamic Jihad sometime in January. His body was recovered thereafter by the IDF. So this, for me, is just not another news item. Hannah came back. She was never the same after about 50 days in captivity. And whatever her physical ailments were, I'm sure she died of heartbreak, her husband and son having been murdered by Hamas. And just a very sweet woman who did not deserve this. And nor do the people of Gaza deserve what has been happening to them. And the only thing that will make it stop is Hamas getting to yes. We all wait for that. And I would call on anyone who considers themselves a friend, forget about friend of Israel, but a friend of the Palestinian people. Do what you can to get Hamas to yes. That's the only way I get my son back. Another 99 Israeli families get their loved ones back alive, and the remains of those who have been murdered. And the people of Gaza can return to something that resembles normalcy.
Yeah. And as you said, this is a heartbreaking situation for your family, for Israelis, as well as, of course, for the people of Gaza and Palestinians. Just really, really sad. And, of course, praying for your family and for a ceasefire for this to end. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.